and welcome to the Maine State Immunization Program's webinar on Mass Immunization Event Client Administration. This new addition to our immunization registry, ImmPact2, allows the user to enter multiple client vaccine administration records on one single screen. My name is Jessica, and during this webinar, I will walk you through the basics of the new Mass Immunization page. I'll show you some errors that you may receive and how to correct these, and also highlight some of the other functions of the ImmPact2 registry. We're going to begin by logging onto the system. You'll want to type in your organization code, your username, and your password, and click the Login button. This will bring us to the home page of ImmPact2. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see a blue menu bar. This menu bar will give you a variety of options based on your role in the practice. For this demonstration, we will click on the Mass Immunization link located under the Clients heading. And this will bring us to our Mass Immunization page. You'll notice at the top of the screen there are two drop-down boxes. The first is the Site drop-down, and this is for users who may be associated to several different sites. You want to select the site that you are entering records for. The second is the Mass Vaccination Administration Set drop-down, and this is for sites that may be conducting several different types of clinics, such as an adult flu and pneumo clinic or a school flu clinic. You'll want to select the correct type of clinic that you will be entering records for. Once you've selected this, the page will automatically refresh to show you the vaccines that you have on hand for this clinic, the types of vaccines, the lot numbers for those vaccines, the amount of doses, and the expiration dates. You have a variety of options when entering client records on this screen. You can choose to enter 3 clients at once, 5 clients at once, or you can choose to enter 1 client at a time. The first example I'm going to show you is how to enter a client who is already in our ImmPact2 system. You'll begin by typing in the date that the vaccine was administered. You can do so by typing into the date box or clicking on the calendar and choosing the correct date. We're going to use our standard ImmPact2 search criteria of the first 3 letters of the last name and the first 3 letters of the first name. In this example, I'm looking for a client named Kyle Webinar. I've entered the first 3 of the last, the first 3 of the first, and I'm going to go over to the right-hand side of the screen and click the search button under Find Client. Listed below are all of the clients in ImmPact2 that met our search criteria. As you can see, there is a client named Kyle Webinar. I'm going to verify the date of birth is 10/1/2007, and I can either select this client to start entering administration records for, or I can click the Review button. When I click the Review button, we have an additional window that pops up with client information. It'll have the client's name, the date of birth, but it will also list a responsible person, in this case, a mother with an address. This is an additional way for you to verify that this is the correct client. Once you are sure that this is your client, you can X out of that screen, which will return you to the Mass Immunization page, and we can click Select. And now we are able to fill in the administration record. We have 2 different types of vaccines available for this clinic. I can either choose to select a flu mist or an inactivated influenza vaccine. In this case, I know that Kyle received an inactivated influenza vaccine, so I will click the Yes button. There is a trade name drop-down, so you'll want to pick the correct trade name and lot number that was given to the client. There is a volume button based on the client's age. If they received a 0.5 or a 0.25, you'll want to select the correct volume. There is an Administered By button, which is not the person who is doing the data entry, however, the person that actually administered the vaccine. There is a Body Site drop-down. These are for different types of vaccines. In this case, we're going to choose an arm. There's a route, different types of routes that you can administer vaccines by. Select the correct type of route. And there is a date of VIS, which is not the date that the vaccine information statement was given, To the client, it is the date of the publication on the vaccine information statement. You'll want to make sure this field is correctly entered and click the Save button. As you can see at the top, indicated in red, this client record has been saved to the ImmPact2 system. For our second example, I'm going to show you a client who is not in our ImmPact2 system. You'll want to keep in mind that most children in the state of Maine who have either been born here within the last 10 years or have been on Maine care within the last 10 years should be in our system. So you'll want to make sure that you're following our standard search criteria and not creating duplicate clients because most of the children should be in the system. Again, we'll want to type in the date that the vaccine was administered, the first three of the last name, first three of the first name. In this instance, I'm going to be looking for a client named Tony Zumba. I'll click the search button. And as you can see, no clients were found for the requested search criteria. So I'm going to go ahead and add this client. To do so, I want to make sure that I type in the entire last name, the entire first name, and also a date of birth. By typing in the date of birth, this will allow you to add the client to the ImmPact2 system. Again, I click the search button. And now additional fields have come down here at the bottom. The fields that are in blue are required fields to add a client to the ImmPact2 system. Last name, first name, date of birth. There is a gender, a county. This is the county in which the client lives. There is a VFC eligibility dropdown. VFC stands for Vaccines for Children, which is how we receive our funding from the federal CDC. There are 4 different types of VFC eligibilities. The first is Medicaid, which is Maine care in the state of Maine. The second is an American Indian or Alaskan Native. The third is underinsured, which is a child who has insurance. However, their insurance does not cover vaccines. And the fourth is not insured, which is a client that has no insurance. If you are unsure about the client's VFC eligibility, you'll want to click the Not Eligible button. This will open the second eligibility dropdown titled Other Eligibility. Scroll to the bottom of this and click Unknown Eligibility. There's also a field for the mother's first name and the mother's maiden last name, if that is known. Once you've filled in all required fields, you can click the Add Client button. And as you can see, this client has been added, and the fields are open for vaccine administration at the bottom. In this case, I know that Tony received a flu-mist vaccine. The trade name is correct, volume is correct, administered by is correct, body site is, and route is as well. And this has been pre-populated for the date of VIS. As long as you know that all of your fields are correct and filled in, you can click the Save button. As you can see, Tony has been saved, and the administration fields are now open again for you to search and enter for additional clients. The next thing I'm going to show you is some errors that you might receive while entering client records. And these are going to be errors associated to both clients individually and for your inventory. As you can see, I've refreshed the page to allow for multiple client administration records. All of these clients that I've entered do have errors on their page. The first client, as you can see, Jessica, I have left the date of the VIS publication blank. The second client, Jeremy, I have entered an incorrect date of the vaccine provided. The third client, I have failed to list a vaccine given. Once you're entering clients on a multiple page, instead of clicking the Save button under each individual client, scroll to the bottom and click the Save All button. As you can see, each of these clients do have an error associated to them. They're going to show next to the client number. They are a dark red on top of a dark gray. They are hard to read. You'll want to click next to it, scroll over, and highlight the error. The first says VIS date is a required field to add a new immunization. This is going to show for any field that you have failed to fill in next to a given dose. So we'll go ahead and type in the date of the VIS publication. Again, this is publication date and not the date that the VIS was provided to the patient. Client number 2 indicates that the date provided is out of range. If I look at the date provided box, I can see, in fact, this was a typo. You'll want to type in the correct date that the vaccine was administered to the client. Client number 3 says at least one immunization must be given. In this instance, I can see that we have failed to indicate a vaccine given. I'm going to say yes to the flu mist vaccine, again, to make sure that every field next to the yes is filled in. And once again, we'll click the Save All button. As you can see, each individual client error has disappeared. However, we do have an error on the top stating quantity on hand for flu mist is insufficient. If I look down into our vaccine inventory for this clinic, I can see under flu mist that we only have 2 doses available. In this case, you'll want to check your client records and make sure that you didn't incorrectly indicate a vaccine. In this case, I know that Kyle did not receive flu mist. In fact, looking at the records, he received an inactivated influenza vaccine. So we'll click yes to this, scroll over and make sure that all required fields are filled in, and we'll click the Save All button. As you can see, all 3 clients have been saved, and you are now able to add 3 more client administration records. The last thing I'm going to show you is a typical administration user and some of the features that that type of role will have in the ImmPact2 system. As you can see, I've changed screens and logged in as a site administrator. You'll notice the left-hand side of the screen, the blue menu bar, there are several more options and there are several more responsibilities as a site administrator. The Maine immunization program requires that inventory usage logs and cold chain reports, temperature logs, are submitted to the program on a monthly basis. You will type in your temperature logs under the Manage Cold Chain, and you'll reconcile your inventory and submit usage reports using the Reconcile Inventory page. You also have the option of switching sites if you are a user with multiple site associations, and you have the ability to change your password. We will have future webinars on how to manage your inventory and how to manage your cold chain. And this concludes our webinar on mass immunization event client administration. If you have any questions or comments concerning this webinar, please contact the State of Maine Immunization Program at 1-800-867-4775, or you may contact the ImmPact2 Help Desk at 1-800-906-8754. I hope you found this webinar informative, and I want to thank you for listening.